Hello world, Shelly here, and today I've got for you another Friday foundation fix where I give you a fix of foundation reviews in between foundation fests, and this might just be the last Friday foundation fix before the next foundation fest. I just said foundations so many times, so many F's are happening in those sentences. The next foundation fest, I've got all of the foundations ready to go. I just need to buckle down, set a date, film them all. If you are new to my channel, Foundation Fest is where I do 5 days in a row of foundation reviews, and your Friday foundation fix kind of gets you in the mood in between Foundation Fest. So today I'm going to take a look at one of the new lightest shades of Milani's Conceal and Perfect foundation. Now, if you feel like you're having deja vu, you are not. We did have a new lightest shade just a few months ago, and I reviewed that. I will link it down below if you missed it. But they've come out with 2 more new lighter shades and 1 new darker shade. So that brings the Conceal and Perfect foundation line up to 19 different shades. Now that sounds very impressive for a drugstore line of foundation, but I will say still a majority of the shades are centered in that light to medium range. There's a couple dark ones and a couple light ones, but it's still very, very light to medium centric. But I still applaud them for attempting to get outside of that range and add new shades to their line. That is always a good thing to address more skin tones and more people that can benefit from this product. So let's take a look at some of the claims on Milani's website for this foundation. As far as what the public thinks about this foundation, I've got a bunch of sites pulled up with their reviews. CVS has 19 reviews, gives it a 4.6 out of 5. Walgreens website has 34 reviews, gives it a 3.6 out of 5. Makeup Alley gives it a 3.1 out of 5 with 145 reviews there. The most reviews on any site, Amazon, has it at a 3.9 out of 5 with 687 reviews. Walmart is about the same, Target 3.7 out of 5. So this seems to range as a pretty average foundation in terms of the overall reviews that people are giving it. This foundation comes in 19 shades, retails for $10, and it is described as combating under eye circles, redness, and other skin imperfections with this full coverage, water-resistant foundation plus concealer in one. A no mess, no drip pump dispenses just the right amount of fluid needed to achieve a flawless look and works around the clock to keep skin looking naturally perfect. So that is what they are claiming. We are going to put it to the test and find out how it goes. Now, I have this in the new shade 00A Porcelain. Now, this shade is described as a shade for fair with neutral to pink undertones. That is exactly me, so I am hopeful. The shade I had previously was 00 Light Natural, and this was several shades too dark and too yellow. It is not described as anything on the website. They don't give any explanation for that shade. But the other new shade they've got on the light end of the spectrum is 00B Light, and it is described as being for fair with yellow undertones. So it sounds like they did go a little bit lighter. They've got a couple new shades in the medium and the dark end of the spectrum, so that is good. I want to just swatch these side by side. I have not swatched this yet, so I have no idea what this is going to look like, and I just want to see what it compares to with the original 00 Light Natural that I had. So I'm just going to pop a little dibby dab here. It's definitely lighter. Yes. All right, side by side, here you go. Yes, Milani. This is the new 00A Fair with pink undertones. This is the 00 Light Natural, which was too dark and too yellow for me. This looks promising. Let's take a look at this foundation swatched against some of the other brands of foundation that I've got in this price range in my collection. Here we go with swatches. First up, these are both the Milani foundations. This is the Conceal and Perfect in today's color 00A Porcelain. And second is the 00 Light Natural. Third up, I've got the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow in their lightest shade 201 Classic Ivory. Fourth is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation in Rose Ivory. And last up from The Ordinary, this is their Coverage Foundation in shade 1.1 Pink. Alright, I have already primed my face with the Urban Decay Urban Defense Primer, one of my absolute favorites. I'm going to do a brush on one side, a sponge on the other. I've got the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, and I've got the Artis Oval 7 face brush here, and we'll see if there is one way that works better than the other. For your $10, you get a nice glass bottle. It is a very attractive sort of packaging here. And dun, 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 you get a pump. That always makes me happy. Keeps things nice, clean, sanitary. You get less oxidation over time. You last a little bit longer. Good stuff. I'm going to go in with 2 pumps to start out with. This seems like a thick formula. Yes, we have no dripping really whatsoever going on here. All right, my furs are pulled back. Let's do this thing. I'll start out with the sponge. Is it possible that Milani has made a foundation that is too light for my skin? This is like the opposite of any Milani problem I've ever had. This blended out very nicely. I would say we're at a light medium coverage. It's very nicely canceling out any redness that I've got going on. I can still see my freckles sort of poking through here a bit, but it blended out nicely, and so far so good. Let's see what the brush does on the other side. I think there might be slightly better coverage with the brush, but really good coverage on either side. I feel like both look equally nice and smooth and blended out, so I don't have a preference here. I think either way, brush or sponge, works well. So far, this is not settling into lines. I feel like it is not doing a whole lot to blur my pores, but it is not accentuating texture on my skin, which is nice. I think especially the brush side looks very smooth in terms of the lack of texture, and it looks really nice. It might be a touch too light for me right now in the summertime, but this is probably a really good winter shade for me, and I will be able to bronze it up just a little bit. I'm going to go in with just a teeny bit more, not even a whole pump, and see if I can build up just a little bit more coverage over my dark spots here. Yes, this seems to build up really easily, very nicely. I am getting more coverage. I do think you could build this up to full coverage if you wanted to. It's 11:51. I'm going to go put the rest of my makeup on, and I'll be right back. I'm back. Here's the face. Everything blended out just fine on top of this foundation. I have had minor settling into my deeper fine lines on my forehead and my smile lines and under my chin. So I've just been sort of dabbing those out with the sponge, and hopefully that will take care of that for the rest of the day. Fingers crossed. Everything looks really nice. I think this is going to be a really nice shade for me for winter. It's only the tiniest bit too light for me right now. I can't believe I'm saying that about a Milani foundation, and I'm so glad that I can say that about a Milani foundation. Although, the one thing I was thinking about as I was putting on my face was that, you know, the difference between that 00A and 00 is a pretty big jump. And that's part of the problem, I think, with this line, is that they're not addressing all of the spectrum of in-betweens. And so for it to be such a big jump from that fair to the fair light, there's a lot of room for some shades in between there, and that's just one thing that I think Milani could use some work on. But let me tell you guys what's on the rest of my face. As per usual, I've got my L'Oreal Glam Bronze, I've got my Wet n Wild blush in Pearlescent Pink, and I tried something new, this Laura Geller Diamond Dust Baked Gelato Swirl Highlighter. Holy cow, this was way cooler, prettier, nicer than I was expecting. Not that I thought it would be bad or anything, but I didn't think I would be so immediately impressed. And this is with a very light hand, and I think it's just gorgeous, and it's not emphasizing texture at all. So thumbs up. Voluminous Lash Paradise L'Oreal is my mascara. On my eyes, I'm almost ashamed. I caved, you guys. I caved. And I picked up the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, but I mean, come on now. I was doing really good resisting, and then in a recent video, ThaTaylaa said that she's been reaching for this palette more than she expected to, and it's like, I just saw my willpower floating away into little particles, and that was the end of that. So yeah, now I got it. It's sold out again, but they say they're going to restock it. Lip is Kat Von D Everlasting Liquid Lipstick in Lolita. I set this foundation very lightly with the Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten in Porcelain. This is my favorite to set foundation with. And under my eyes, I set with my new favorite translucent powder. This is the Kat Von D Lock-It Setting Powder in Translucent. I really like this under my eyes. I'm having a super dry under eye time right now. And even for as dry as my eyes are, you can see a little bit of the lines going on. But this really, it looks as good as it possibly could, considering the circumstances. So, chicken time is about noon. It was like 11:51. I'm going to call it noon just so I remember what it was. I'm going to go about my day. We've got a gloomy, rainy day going on here in the Shenandoah Valley. I am going to give you guys a daylight check-in or a cloud light check-in a little bit later on, and I'll come back at the end of the night and show you guys how everything wore and give you my final thoughts on this foundation. Hey guys, I was gonna say, wow, I'm looking pale, but actually, I'm pale everywhere. So, yeah, it's been almost 6 hours. It's about 5:50 p.m. right now, and we're at about the 6 hour mark. I think everything is holding up good at this point. I have not looked super closely in a mirror, but clearly you can see my blush and bronzer is all still happening, and everything looks pretty on point. I feel like it's been very comfortable so far. I'm not having any itching or dry sensation. It's pretty lightweight considering how heavy it was upon application. It feels maybe average weight and slightly to the light side. Honestly, I haven't thought about my makeup all day, so that's a good sign, and I will be back in a few hours to get a final check-in. All right, I am back for a final check-in. It is 10:50 p.m., so we are just about exactly at the 11 hour mark, and I have to say, for a drugstore foundation, really for any foundation, this has held up remarkably well. I feel like it is just now starting to show some signs of wearing away. Now, let's get a good look at this. I think the settling into lines, for the most part, stopped. I do have a little bit of settling under my chin lines. Those are the deepest lines on my face. But for the most part, it did not settle additionally into my smile lines or into my forehead lines after I had dabbed it out a few times. It is not settling into pores. It is not accentuating pores. Texture still looks good. All of my bronzer and blush are still completely visible. Everything stayed in place. I think it looks really nice. I think it did oxidize maybe a shade to 2 shades, which on me is good because now it's a very good match for me, where it did start out a little bit too light. I went back and looked at my original review of Shade 00, and it was essentially the same thing. It did oxidize a couple of shades, which made it way too dark for me since it started out too dark to begin with. It had similar issues. It's a little bit clinging to dry patches around my nostrils, a little bit cakey around that area, but it wore really well, 10 hours plus in that review, which, like I said, I will link down below if you have not seen that. And honestly, I think this one does just a little bit better. On the bright side, I think it wore a little bit more evenly. I think the color match is great. It does not feel drying at all. It feels nice. I do think my skin is a little bit more dewy than it was when I started, so if you have oily skin or combo skin, you might have a harder time with this, but I have dry skin, so I don't produce a whole lot of oil, but I do feel like I look a little bit more dewy than I did at the start of the day. The biggest downside I see is that I think it's breaking me out. I have 3 little bumps on my cheek that I did not have this morning, and that is the only product on my face that is new that I have not used before, so I am a little concerned about that. But overall, I think this foundation looks really nice, especially at the $10 price point. I'm very glad that they've been working to extend their shade range. Thumbs up to Milani for that. The previous version I tested of this foundation earned a C+ in my ratings, and I am going to go so far as to kick this one up a notch. I am going to go B-. I think this is a slightly above average performance on dry, maturing skin. I'm a little concerned if it is breaking me out, but overall I think it wore really nicely. It was very comfortable to wear, and I got more than a full day's wear out of it, which is pretty much all I can ask. It was a no fuss, no muss, didn't have to touch up or even really be concerned at all about checking out my makeup because it just stayed put and everything looked good. So if you would like to see some more foundation reviews and you like this one, give me a thumbs up down below. Please let me know in the comments if you have suggestions for foundations. 4 of the 5 that I've got for the next Foundation Fest were requests from you guys, so I keep a list and I get my hands on them whenever I can. So thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.